Hi, everybody. Today we're going to talk about levels of being and how you shift someone else and or yourself through and into them. This came from Morgine's comment about she does know that she's source and all of that, God, all that stuff, but she knows it, I guess she said intellectually, but doesn't recognize it in the same way in herself, or doesn't celebrate it, I guess, in the same way. I don't want to put words in her mouth. I know what she means. And I worked with a whole bunch of people around that. And so I want to share a little bit about what it takes to get someone to move through these levels. So I'm going to talk about three distinct levels just for the moment, although it used to be I'd talk about 5, 6, 7 different levels, but just for the moment, let's make it simple. Okay, there's your human being self, which can be at many different levels of itself, but let's assume the human being self is at a fairly good level and fairly clear of all the stuff and living a good life and, looking for more, because that's probably who you're going to talk to if you're doing anything quantum at all. You're going to at least start at that level. Now, I'm not saying that you can't get people who are dealing with problems in their life or really struggling to go there. You can. I'm just going to kind of reframe the human being level at a kind of singular look just to make it simple. Okay, so there's that. And as a human, you mostly live through your conditioning. You may have known when you were a little kid who you are. I didn't personally. I don't think I ever knew as a kid. But most of the people I work with who tend to be more empathic, more sensory people than logical brain thinking people, they did know who they were, and they knowed it all along. They knew they were here for something big, and it kind of dwelled inside of them really powerfully as children. And then the cultural conditioning would take over, and you'd start to believe different things about yourself and think you were imagining it and why that can't be, and all of that kind of thing. So then what happens as we start to move through, I think a lot of people go through personal development and then into spirituality. And I think they start to, in whatever path they choose, go for the greater self, here for a greater purpose. You start to live not just for this and you in your life, but for contribution, to make a difference. Those are all terms that would come up: greater purpose, contribution, making a difference. And that's how you would recognize someone who's moving towards or even dwelling in their greater self. When you are at your greater self level, you are calling the being present, so you would witness it perhaps in consciousness or in its greater form, and then call it present, and or you would sense it as an essence, as the very fabric of who that person is. I think some people, and I used to use the terms spirit and soul, but it's all just nomenclature, and so you can call it whatever you want. I call it essence and being. Your being tends to be more who you've been over time. It's got identity and definition to it, even if it's many lifetimes and not just on this planet, and et cetera, et cetera. Your essence is more from me who you've been since you were breathed into existence by Source, plucked out of the cosmic ooze and breathed into existence and said, here's who you are, here's what you're up to, go do this for me, kind of thing. That's how I used to see it anyways. And again, there'd be many definitions of that, so you don't have to worry about that. That's the ultimate truth. I don't think there is any truth. There's a constant evolvingness of us, and I'm constantly discovering new insights into all that. So there you go. Okay, so the move from greater being to infinite being has happened, I believe, in the last two plus years. We began to see that we could move beyond any sense of identity. We began to connect with the limitlessness of possibility, of universes, of being, of source and godness and all of that. We began to download it into the fiber of ourselves. We began to awaken it from the seed core of ourselves. And we began to discover ourselves as God beings, you could say. But I think that term raises up a lot of stuff for people. So I prefer the term we're infinites. And I think as infinites, all of that stuff that's around the conditioning of the God word goes away. Because as an infinite, you are limitless and you are reshaping yourself in any moment. And you know you can be anything and constantly evolving. And the thing with infinites is they go into a quantum collapse. So they are both forever and have always been, and they are brand newly made in every moment, therefore quantum collapse. And they are just limitless, undivinable beings. And they don't hang on to the past or to their identity. And they get up to really grand things in the biggest games. And I think that's slightly different from Greater Purpose. I think it has a kind of different swing at things. So, that's a topic for another day. We won't get into that. So if you're wanting to move someone through that, if you're working with a human being who really doesn't know who they are or doesn't have any memory of who they are, then what you want to do is move them probably into the greater being first. But you never know. You might quantum leap them into infiniteness because it's available now. But it does take quite a thing, I think, for a typical human being who's conditioned to understand, and here's the key thing they understand, that there doesn't need to be any identity or definition of self, that the more you surrender who you are, the more you become. You become mighty and amazing and powerful, and you can shape yourself with all the forces of the universes and the sources of life, and you can become anything you want to be, basically. So I think with a human being who's got conditioning, I think a step-by-step process is a good thing. So you'd start to call their being and start to get them to make that available to them, get them in touch with their greater purpose, get them living as that. And the more they live as it, the more that greater being comes present, the more that's who they are, the more they understand it. And at the right point in time, then maybe they're ready for infiniteness. Now, some people just leap into infinite being, because I think those people have always known who they are. I think they hold in themselves from a very early age the knowing of who they are and why they're here. And Morgine's example of her post today was a good example of that. I wouldn't doubt, Morgine, that you've known since you were a little kid that that's who you were. And then all of life, tried to get you to believe something else. So I'm glad you know it. So the shift into infiniteness is a quantum shift. It's so easy for people who do know who they've always been, because they just take to it like ducks to water kind of thing. But could you take anybody there? Could you take the whole of the human race there? Absolutely. Yes. And I think we have done that. People I'm working with in consciousness creation, we have done that with the whole of humanity and all of life on Earth. And what's interesting, if you look at the animal kingdoms at the moment, they're going straight there. Their consciousness is raised, their kindness to various species, even to humans, has gotten better. It's very different. Whereas humans have resistance, and that resistance is their cultural conditioning. It's all the beliefs they hold. The beliefs get in the way of the movement and becoming. So sometimes you have to shift some of those beliefs a bit, or at least let them be aware there's a possibility of a shift in belief in order for them to go to the quantum self. Okay, so I'll just demonstrate this quick, and then I'm going to come to Morgine's question about how do you find it in yourself. Okay, so if you're working with someone else, so there they are as a human being, do not relate to that human being. Do not buy into what they're saying. Don't do that. You don't have to say that to them, but you hold the reality of them as something far greater. And no matter what comes out of their mouth, you continue to hold that as far greater. And you blast them with the high vibrational frequencies that are going up and up and up and up and up in their possibilities, in their vibration, in their conscious awareness. And that vibrational frequency upgrade lets the culture and conditioning fall away more easily. I find people become more open-minded and more curious when you raise the vibrational frequency of them. Okay, so if I was doing someone, then I got them to the greater level. And you see, I would look up, I would call their being present, I would see it as big and vast, I would help it to stream graciously into the physicality. There's like a celebration of me with them. It's like I'm reveling in the beauty and amazingness of them, and however you want to say it, it's like a smile comes on my face. When the smile comes on my face, I know I've got it. It's me and the ecstatic universe and them, and I'm getting them. And all's well in the world, it's kind of like that. And then, if I need to deal with anything specific around them, then I do it from that place. So that's a greater being. Then if I wanted to then quantum shift someone into infiniteness, okay, let's imagine I'm working with someone and I would just be like, it's there for all of us. It's there. And you reach to get it and you pop it into their version of reality and you begin to let it flood the consciousness in which they live. So their cultural conditioning is replaced by the infinite limitlessness of themselves, of all life. And suddenly they're more connected, they're more aware, they're more conscious, they're freer, they're happier. I'm not saying it solves all problems, but oh my God, it puts you in the right place. Most of the people I've done this with, they say, well, the problem doesn't exist at this level, right? It doesn't. It doesn't exist at that level of infiniteness. It only exists at the human level. And so it's about getting them to shift levels of being in order so the problem doesn't exist. And from there, they know exactly what to do with it. Of course, it exists at the 3D physical level, but they'll then know exactly how to deal with it because it's not so gripping in them anymore, which is wonderful. Now, let me come back now to Maureen's question about how do I find this in myself? Okay. First of all, I'm going to give you all full permission to completely own the power and brilliance and genius and godness of who you are. Never, ever let any cultural conditioning hold you back from that knowing. Ever. But it's not just a thing you kind of get when you connect to consciousness or when you become the source of all life. Yes, we have experiences. We know that in that moment. But there's also something in you. And for me, it's here. It's the core. It's not the heart for me. It's not where it lives. And I would recommend you not look there. Because I think if you look there, you'll find a different thing that I'm pointing to. But, again, some of you may say, no, the heart's key. And if you believe that, and it is, then you go there and you find your fullest power. But I have never found that the heart is where the power lies. The power lies in the core. And the core is kind of here. It's not even inside you. It sources from inside you, but it's kind of here. And it's not about chakras. If you're into chakras, it's not about that. Forget about that. We are not talking about anything like that. It's just something dwells deep inside you as a knowing of yourself. And let me just say that I have no doubt whatsoever about who I am and what I've been through and why I'm here. No doubt. Nobody could shake that in me, ever. And I live in that. And it's funny for me because, sometimes people will respond to you because I don't look like that, I'm 5'1" and I look pretty, like a normal old human being, and I look, you wouldn't think I'm who I am at the level of power I am. And so sometimes people will say things to me that are very humanish. And if I listen to it from my infiniteness, if I listen to it from a humanness, it would diminish me. But I listen to it from an infiniteness, and I smile inside myself, and I think, if only they knew. And I let it go, because it has no effect on me. None. Because the knowing of myself is with such absolute, a gazillion% certainty that nothing can shake it. And it dwells in me. It's not an intellectual knowing. It dwells in me. It's in the core. I know who I am. And I believe that dwells in each and every one of you. I'm not saying it dwells in every single person on the planet, because certainly there's a lot of confusion around the knowing of self. But my knowing of self has nothing to do with identity. Zero to do with identity, because I'm changing it all the time. I'm constantly evolving myself, becoming the next version. So what do I care about identity? It's just another limiting belief that's in the way of me fulfilling the power and the purpose of my being. So there you go. So I did this with someone the other day, and we made the shift from her human greater to her infinite. And I said to her, somewhere inside you, do you know that this is really, truly who you are, without any doubt? She said, yes. And I said, so when you don't believe it, or when you have shaky moments, that's your human conditioning. It's nothing more than that. It's nothing to do with you. You were raised up in it, in a world of it. It didn't have to be your parents or teachers or anything else. You could have great family, lots of love and all that stuff, and you'd still have that stuff go on, because it's in the world. We're just not trained to think these things about ourselves. So I said to her, then how about if we have that knowing of you, flip it inside out, and have that knowing of you be who you are always inside yourself. And then you can show up as you want to. Because I can choose to be ordinary if I want to be in disguise. I can go into places and have mundane conversation. It bores me witless, but I can do it. And if I just don't want to create a fuss or anything, I don't. I just go in and be ordinary, but not inside and not out there either. No, I know who I am. I carry my power with me always. But it's a choice, so I can make it, do that if I want to. I don't choose to very often. In fact, I avoid those moments like the plague, because I love being in my power and expressing my power and genius in the world. Who wouldn't? Everybody should. It's the life we're meant to live. So I would say, if I just be with you all now, and we're pulling up that knowing that you've always had, that's becoming clearer and clearer and clearer over the years, and it resides deep inside you. And if you just breathe it up, let it crack free. Let it be with you. Own it, not intellectually with your mind, but with your whole being. Let it flow in you. Let it rise. Let the power be a definable moment of yourself. Even if it's not your personal power, who cares? It's the power of the universe. But that's who you are. You are a maestro of power, a genius of creation. And each of you will have unique attributes for that. And in Morgine's case, she is the walking embodiment and the fresh fountain of eternal, unconditional love for all life, to be gifted to every single being now. That's who she is. That's who she lives as. It is breathtaking. And I want, Morgine, you to know that in yourself every moment of your life, and never, ever believe anything else that's a lower view. Because as you do that, as each of you do that, you are giving a gift to humanity. You are creating a template of living the power of your most awesome infinite self. And the more of us that do that, the more it's available as a template for all. So I hope you're all feeling that you just burst up from inside you and flood the field of you and dwell and let it live in exponential flow through you. Just take a moment and know yourself as that power. It's like you can, in my case, this is what I do. So if this works for you, do this, but if something else works for you, do that. So I reach to the source of all life in the biggest black white hole up there in the source of the universe. It and I are connected. And then I reach deep down to the source of all life, from where life began. Yes, they could be the same thing, but let's assume for the moment you're just making a connection from deep inside to way out. And you are the vast flow of the infinite source of life, quantum enlivening life everywhere, taking it to new levels of the new dreaming of possibility of us. And you feel it burst through you, and then you feel the waves ripple as it settles into you. And by the way, never try to hold the power of that inside yourself. Always let it ripple from you, burst from you, gift it to the world first, and then let it come back and affect the embodiment in you. Oh, that was fabulous. I know this is a long one, but I hope you all really, really, really enjoyed that and got a quantum breakthrough into your infiniteness. That will allow you, therefore, to do that with any other person in your own unique, masterful ways. Because like I said, it's not all, oh, that's the only way to do it. That's a way to do this. You find your way, your mastery, your power, your brilliance, and then gift that to all those who are ready for it. Exciting. I love it. Okay, everybody. Enjoy walking around as the knowing of your infinite self, your infinite limitless power today. Lots of love. Bye.